Yeah, and with most recipes in Louisiana, the first sentence is first you start with a roux, which is basically you take some oil or some fat or butter and put it in a large cast iron skillet, let's say, because that retains the heat. And then you add flour, pretty much an equal amount of flour to the oil. And then you stir it like crazy until it turns colors.
Love is fine, but so is swine. Just don't make me choose. 'Cause understand, I'm still a man with the pork fat baby back blues.
Gdayall, and welcome to episode 8. That voice you heard was Phil Tripp. He enjoys warm climates and has been here since 1980. We'll hear a little bit more about that later. But I think I've got my hands full today. I've got two Phils because I need to welcome Phil Bertino. Welcome.
Hey, Barbara, it's nice to get out of that coffin, you know, and the lockdown.
That is right. We've been able to wander around Melbourne the last couple of days. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, and it's been a big week. We finished up a big sports week here, and we're coming up to another sports week with the Melbourne Cup. But we had two teams that won their championships: the Richmond, in the AFL, and the Storm, NRL. So we're sort of like LA, because LA had two teams that won this year, the Dodgers and the Lakers, and we have Richmond and the Storm and the Vixens. So we beat Dodgers out. So we got the Vixens also in netball.
Well, and that's great. And it's great for the girls to have a championship. But I don't want to speak about the Dodgers. It hurts me.
That's right. You're from the north. So
that's right. San Francisco all the way.
Yeah.
Blue and white, no thank you.
Yeah, just get orange and brown.
Orange and black, just like Halloween colors we had the other week.
I get confused. But we did, when I was following the Mets, we did get one of the famous, San Francisco players, Willie Mays, came to play for the Mets for a little while.
Oh, yes. I love Willie Mays. He has a statue outside the new stadium in San Francisco. I was lucky enough to see a while back, but Melbourne is absolutely in its element. It's a beautiful city, and like you said, we've had two winners, even though the AFL was played in Queensland, but they seem to do a good job of it. But we do live in such a great city because we get a day off for a horse race.
How good is that? Yep, teach the kids how to gamble young, right?
It's not like we need a day off at the moment. We've all been locked in, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, we had Thank You Day last week too, remember?
That's right. We've had two public holidays in a row. Now, we need to talk about today's podcast. So we've got some interesting things to talk about. Cajun versus Creole. So I haven't been lucky enough to go to New Orleans, but I know you have. I have my beautiful stepdad. He is from Louisiana originally, a little place called Waterproof. So I have had bits of Louisiana cuisine throughout my growing up with him, which I have enjoyed. So what we want to talk about some of the differences. Do you know, I think they both use the trilogy, which we've spoken about before, which is onion, bell pepper, and celery. But what are some of the differences?
Well, the difference is on the Cajun versus Creole, and I think a lot of people, including myself, gets confused a little bit. But on the Cajun, they're dealing mostly with, like black peppercorns, cayenne pepper, bell peppers, So they're dealing mostly with that type of flavoring. They do throw in some onions and celery, for a little bit extra flavor. Where on the Creoles, they're using some tomatoes, oregano, basil, bay leaf, rosemary, all those really herby type flavors into their cooking. So that's really the biggest things between the two. One is more, if they say Cajun, you're going to get a bit more heat than Creole. Creole's going to be more spices, but not hot spices, but more spices, more fragrance. Okay.
And it's nice that it's an actual cuisine of America. So because it's got like a mixture of African, French, Spanish, Native American, all of that in that one little section of the U.S., that there is nothing like it anywhere else in the world. I mean, barbecues are, there's a type of barbecue all over the world. I mean, I do think we do it best. But with the Creole and Cajun, it's really just in that small section that it's known for.
Yeah, and it's extreme eating. That is just one of the best places in the world for a foodie to go, because you do nothing but eat there. And now, what even makes it better, it's hard to find a bad restaurant because all the bad restaurants are gone. And you blame social media for that.
Well, fair enough. I think you can even get like fried alligator and all sorts of. Actually, that would have gone with our Nat Nosh from last week with wild cuisine.
Well, yeah, and they probably eat snake down there too. I don't know, but I had a friend from Shreveport, Louisiana. That was my first indulgence into somebody from the South, and I used to work with him at the Bagel Bakery. So he gave me all the true pronunciation, like Louisiana, not Louisiana. At least where they talked about it in Shreveport and in Shreveport. But it's their own language, also their own tang on everything that they put into it, of how they pronunciate things, and just their little hoedowns and things like that they do. And you go into some of their great foods and even desserts like Benet, the Café du Monde.
Yes, and the chicory coffee.
Chicory coffee and the little square fried dumplings with powdered sugar on. Oh, it's just, yeah. You just got to get there. As soon as all this is over, Robert, get on the airplane, go to New Orleans.
It is definitely on my bucket list. There's so many things I want to see there, and it's funny because when we were looking up things, talking about this, we had a few fun facts about Louisiana, and it's a bit cute because the shape of Louisiana actually resembles an L. So that's funny.
So just like the people from Michigan, they put their hands up and one goes to the upper part, the other one to the bottom.
I didn't know that, but now I do. And there's also Elvis Presley went to Shreveport, where your friend's from. And he went to the Southern Made Donut store to get some donuts before going on, I think it was a radio show, Louisiana Hayride. And he, in fact, loved them so much, he sang the jingle for the brand in 1954. And that was the only commercial endorsement Elvis ever did. He didn't do any peanut butter and banana sandwich companies or any deep fried anything else, just the Southern Made Donuts of Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh.
And I have one more because I'm a true crime nut. I'm sorry. But Bonnie and Clyde met their end in Louisiana. Not Louisiana. Yes, Louisiana. What parish was it? Bienville Parish. Bien would mean good. I don't think that was a good end for them. Nothing like a bit of overkill in 1934.
I did see their car at someplace. I think I think at the Imperial Palace in Las Vegas. They had their car there for a while, full of holes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was. I think they could have taken it down by at least 10% in their reaction. Well, now I want you to tell me, because when I finally am able to visit, can you give me some highlights of where I should go and what I should do?
Well, first of all, when you go book your accommodations, I would suggest to anybody that's going there, there are so many great guest houses and old mansions that you could stay at. We stayed at one, and it was just superb. It was, totally different. It's called Oliver House, and it was, I don't know how long ago it's been built there, but it has the courtyard and has like the old way where the horses used to come in with the carriages. That's still there, and there's still a lot of buildings done that way. And this was a mansion, a family mansion, and then it converted into rooms and all that. So it left everything just about intact. So nothing really fits right. Like the doors, you got to, really work them to get them closed because of this thing's how they settle. But if you go like on TripAdvisor, of course you're going to come up with all the best Westerns and the Marriotts and all that. But keep searching, because you will see all these guest houses in there. And they are just, if you're going to go there, you want to get that atmosphere, and start with the atmosphere, I think, where you're staying.
Right. Now, is that in, I think I know about the Garden Precinct with the mansions, and then there's the French Quarter, and I know there's other precincts of
It's a pretty
Louisiana.
big town. I mean, there's a lot to walk around within the central district and stuff. And then I think what you're talking about with where the other big mansions are, we took a trolley ride. Now, here we get on a tram.
Yep.
That's for a better word for it, being from Melbourne. And the lady that's driving the tram, big open thing, not like all enclosed over here, right? They take your money, you sit down, and you go. We went for 45 minutes on this tram to the end, and then came back, passing all of these beautiful mansions. Drew Brees lives out there, and all this other stuff. And you end up at one of the colleges, and then we turned around and came back after we had something we had at a local Greasy Spoon.
I want to do a cemetery tour, I think, there, because they look amazing. It's such a French influence there. I think the architecture and everything just makes it really is a gem of the U.S. because it's so different and just it's unique and it looks beautiful. I will even deal with humidity, which is a big thing for me.
Yeah, try not to go there in the summertime because, we were there in one summer and it was, it's pretty roasty. But
I heard someone describe it today as soupy.
Soupy is a good word. Yep.
And when you and Jeanette were there, what was your best food experience?
God, there was so many of them. I remember one, and this is when I went with Phil. We drove through there, and we went to one place. We were hungry, and it was in between. I said, "Okay, let's go to this bar." We went into this bar. I had a bowl of red beans and rice, which is incredible, along with a Bloody Mary with a big piece of bacon in it.
Yum.
So those are like the things you remember. We went to Chef Paul's place.
Oh.
Walking around, you just get all these fragrances of coming out of these restaurants. One of the things which I'm really miss, and I'm sorry that I didn't do it, we passed by and they're doing these oysters on the half shell on open fire.
Ooh.
So that looked just astounding.
Well, I think I need to put that on the list as well. And we have to make sure that we talk to Phil about that. He might be able to give us a few highlights of things not to miss. Yeah. So it's about time to do that now. So it's time for our guest, Phil Tripp. Welcome, Phil, and thank you for joining us.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey, Phil. In about 60 seconds, just give us a rundown of your life history.
Pretty easy. I'm 70 years old almost. I started out with a military background. My father was a prison commandant for the U.S. Army. So we lived in France, Germany, Japan, and about 14 different states in America where he ran prisons. As I grew up, I became kind of a hippie and left early. Finished high school, started college, was kicked out in my first year because it was a Southern Baptist college in the one county in America that had more members in the Ku Klux Klan than any other. Sound familiar now? I moved down to Atlanta and worked out of there. I started working in the music industry after a rather checkered career of importing fine stones from South America, green stones. And I ended up as a tour manager in America, and I ended up at 30 deciding that when Ronald Reagan was elected, I was going to leave. So I did, but I kept coming back, and New Orleans is one of my favorite places. I half lived in New Orleans for a few years. I learned to cook for myself because my mother boiled everything to death.
Yeah, we're talking about food, and also, like going to New Orleans, and with Chef Paul Prudhomme, he was the first one that blackened seasoning, blackened food, and I, sort of like your mom used to boil everything, but Jeanette, and you know Jeanette very well, she also made blackened food, but not with any spices. She just burnt it.
Yeah, well, My mother burned it when the water ran out from boiling it. So you might get lucky if it was blackened.
Yes, I had a grandmother from the Oklahoma side of the family, and she just cooked everything on high. So it was just a crapshoot what came out and what didn't.
Well, for me, it actually started my last 2 years of high school. I had to decide what electives I was going to take. You know, those extra classes
Yes.
you can take. And all the boys took metal shop, car shop, wood shop. I just didn't want to get dirty. So I took typing and home economics. And I was called gay by all my male friends, except when I told them, I said, hey, look, while you're getting, wood dust all over you, I'm swapping recipes with 34 girls.
Yeah, I'd say you'd be the catch.
Well, I had a lot of fun that way. I overcame my shyness, but I did learn how to cook then, and that set me up for life. And it also set me up for marrying 4 redheads because they loved my cooking. Unfortunately, I'm a widower 4 times over, but the good news is I was never convicted.
That reminds me of a story. One fellow was talking to another. He says, "Oh, my wife's an angel," and he says, "Oh, you're lucky. My wife's still alive."
You boys, from what I understand, you sort of lived in Maine, and then you worked your way down to Georgia, and then you went to Louisiana, if that's correct. I'm just curious, since we're sort of talking about the South today, what was the difference about living in Atlanta or Georgia and Louisiana?
Well, first off, the difference between living in Maine and those 2 places is it's bloody cold in Maine. It's like the southern tip of Tasmania or the northern tip of Antarctica. So I kept moving south to be able to, advance the weather until I was in a good warm place. And Atlanta was that one place of sanity in the South at that time, which was 1970. The difference between Atlanta and New Orleans is actually quite different. Atlanta is a very cosmopolitan city it's kind of a blue city in a red zone, surrounded by rednecks. And the closest city, though, to New Orleans is actually Savannah. Savannah is like New Orleans 2.0. It's got Spanish moss on the trees. It's got a lot of water around it. It's got swamps. It's got old culture, old cooking, great cooking styles like what is called geek. So, Savannah is really the cooler place, and that's where I like to go back to. But New Orleans is a town that started out Spanish and then became French. And basically, the French sent all of its prisoners to Louisiana from Canada. There they were called Acadians. And when they were sent down to the swamps to live, they became Cajuns. It's a shortening of Acadian. And they had to eat the food that was there. So they weren't living high off the hog. They were taking the low end of the hog, like intestines, and turning them into chitlins or something. And also they were eating nutria, which is kind of like a cross between a rabbit and a beaver, alligator, of course, shrimp, which most other people didn't eat, crustaceans, crabs. Meanwhile, the French and the English and the Spaniards ended up eating the high end of the hog. So that's how Cajun cooking originated. And there is one other difference, Cajun versus Creole. Creole is kind of the same, but it relies more upon French techniques, and also black.
Right. When I was looking at it, I was looking at different recipes, and it seemed to have more tomato bases and things. It seems to have the same flavor across of it, but quite different as well.
Yeah, and with most recipes in Louisiana, the first sentence is, first you start with a roux, which is basically you take some oil or some fat or butter, and put it in a large cast iron skillet, let's say, because that retains the heat. And then you add flour, pretty much an equal amount of flour to the oil. And then you stir it like crazy until it turns colors. It could be a light roux, which might take you 7 minutes. A red roux, which might be 10, 15, or a dark roux, a brown roux, even a black roux, which would take you close to a half an hour of constant stirring. Believe me, that's pretty much the exercise class that the Cajuns and Creoles had every day.
So this is a lot of love put into it.
Yeah, and then you smother it, right? With like étouffée, means smother or to suffocate.
Well, yeah, kind of like my wives, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Gentlemen. Let me étouffée you one more time.
Yeah.
But étouffée is a wonderful dish, and yes, it is smothered with the Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is capsicum, celery, and onions. Then you've got the peppers, and that's often jalapenos, cayenne, Tabascos, those sort of peppers. I grow all my own peppers up here. I've got about 20 different types that I grow. And let me tell you, sometimes it gets really crazy up here, and I have to turn that into hot sauce and make about 5 or 6 gallons at a time.
So you brew your own hot sauce, sort of like you're the McElhaney of Queensland.
Well, actually, I have a powder. Now, I call it Persian brown heroin, but it's actually called 9 pepper salt. And I use 9 different types of pepper with kosher salt. That's it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It is the tastiest concoction you can imagine.
So you dry all your own peppers and then make them into a powder, however you do that, and then blend it all together.
Yeah, and I do bring back quite a few powders from Austin and Dallas when I leave there and come back to Australia. And of course, occasionally I get into trouble with customs when they find these large bags of red and brown powder and think they've got Mr. Big here.
Yeah, it looks like cocaine, and he colored it. Man, yeah,
so you could just offer to make him a good gumbo.
Well, I could, but I just say, here, sniff some of this.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in Louisiana or in the South, where did you get your influences from? Did you have a mentor? Did you just buy cookbooks? Did you make friends that taught you how to make certain dishes? How did you go about your education of Creole and Cajun cuisine?
Okay. For probably close to 10 years, I was the lead stage manager at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival every April and May. And there I met an incredible number of artists, and we became friends because they would always be playing my stage, which was the biggest stage there and the one that usually ended the fest. So I would have people like Doug Kershaw come up on stage, and then he'd invite me around to some dive for oysters and beer and whatever. Roosevelt Sykes, who was a boogie-woogie piano player, his wife invited me for dinner one night along with a couple of my guys, and she made the most incredible fried chicken you would ever have. She taught me how to do fried chicken. Somebody introduced me to Paul Prudhomme, and hey, we're both big guys, so we got along pretty good very fast. And he gave me the present of his cookbook the first night I ate there. And I actually have eaten at Paul Prudhomme's probably 50 times. The last time was 1.5 years ago. Mm. And it was sad when he passed, but it was actually even sadder when his wife passed because she was the love of his life and she really motivated him to lose weight and do it all. Unfortunately, she was the one that ended up dying early. But, I learned a lot from him. And then there is Emeril. Now, Emeril worked under Paul Prudhomme when he was at Commander's Palace. And let me tell you, Commander's Palace is my go-to place when I first get there because lunch has 25-cent martinis. And it is an elegant place. It is masterful. And thank God it's still open.
I think it'd be remiss if we don't mention Dooky Chase, which is in the Tripp area. of New Orleans, opened in 1941, and their chef was Leah Chase, who passed away last year at 96. She was called the Queen of Creole cuisine, and she would be there from 8 a.m. till midnight, well into her 90s. That restaurant had the likes of Martin Luther King, Willie Mays, Ray Charles, and the Freedom Riders. She actually even had President Obama there, who she slapped the back of his hand when he attempted to put hot sauce into her gumbo. You don't mess with Miss Chase's gumbo, evidently. She even kept the restaurant open during Katrina with her husband. They stayed in a trailer next to the restaurant and kept serving people that were working to help the people suffering from Katrina. So that is an establishment that's still running today.
I can't go back to New Orleans anymore. Part of it is because I'm getting much older, but really, most all the places that I really loved in New Orleans have gone out of business because of COVID. And you just can't. Oh, and Cajun country is even worse. I mean, those were hole-in-the-wall restaurants mostly, like Pochets and some of the Boudin joints that I went to. And, of course, they died very quickly. But there is an event that if your listeners want to really experience Cajun cooking, you go to a place called Eunice in Cajun Prairies, just outside of Baton Rouge, about a 2-hour drive from New Orleans. And late March, they have a Crawfish Étouffée festival where all the local businesses and that make their best crawfish étouffée to be judged, the winner for the year. And they give away their recipes, so you might want to look that up. And it is just heaven. And again, you also get a chance to go eat some boudin. Now, boudin, I should explain, is a sausage, but it's not a sausage like that you put on a grill or a barbecue. It's a sausage that you steam, and you use the natural casing. And when it comes to eating it, well, the ingredients are pork liver or chicken liver or duck liver or whatever liver. The Holy Trinity, once again, onion, bell pepper, and celery. Lots of hot pepper and rice. Now, the rice absorbs a lot of the juice that's created. But with that boudin, you don't bite into it. You suck it. You take the thing, you put it in your mouth, and then you sort of put your teeth down on it and suck out and pull the contents out, which is quite gross for many people, but you get used to it,
Eating a crayfish, you do the same thing, right? A crawfish, crawdaddy, where you break off the head and you suck the body out or whatever.
The best food is the food that you eat with your hands and something dribbles down your chin.
Or dribbles down your arm.
That's right. It sounds sort of like a Cajun haggis.
Well, you know what? You're very close, and they take pride in their boudin. Now, boudin is not a dish you'd find in a restaurant. It's mainly sold in convenience stores out of steamers,
Right.
butchers on the side of the road. Small butcher shops, gas stations. Places where you're going to pull up. And you don't take it home with you and, have it for dinner generally because it'll never get out of the car. You eat it on your dashboard or if you got a truck, on the tailgate. And that's it. It goes instantly.
Well, like we were saying before about, not going back to New Orleans because of all the great places they're not there because of COVID. Hopefully, we'll get a Phoenix and they'll rise again, just as they did after the hurricanes, that they rise again. And even this year, they're being challenged between COVID and the hurricanes, but they will rise again. And hopefully we'll all get back there and enjoy it.
If I found a good reason to go back there, I'd be there in a Cajun minute.
Now, Phil, well, luckily, we have had you as one of our customers since I think just about the inception of USA Foods. What are some of the things you like you like getting for us, or things we were able to offer you that you could make some of your favorite recipes?
Well, most of them are sold out, of course, because they're so damn popular. But, But so many things. Like most people begin their fetish with Cajun spice using Paul Prudhomme's Creole seasoning, uh, or Tony Chachery's. And Tony Chachery's is really good, but Slap Your Mama is by far better, and especially Slap Your Mama hot. I take chili oil, coat chicken legs with it, and then kind of smother it in the hot Slap Your Mama. Let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then put it in an air fryer at 180 degrees for 20 minutes. And that comes out equivalent to what's called Nashville hot chicken, sort of chicken that will bite your mouth off. So that's the seasoning part of it, and you have had some amazing arrays of Tabascos, because Tabasco Company has come out with stuff. I know they had a soy Tabasco, which I just went mad for. And of course, being able to go over there and come back, I often bring lots of things that you don't have generally over, like Creole mustard, Zatarain's Creole mustard, and Creole mustards from various other people that you just wouldn't sell because they wouldn't be that well known.
Gentlemen, I do have to go back to the Slap Your Mama, which Phil, at my house with my stepdad, who is from Louisiana, we have Slap Your Mama at our house. And I did have to explain it often to customers that came into the store. They would find the name of it quite offensive. But then I would also say that, like my dad would cook something and he goes, Barbie, that is so good, it'll make you slap your daddy. So that is, Slap Your Mama means it is so good, it will make you lose your mind so much you might knock out your mother.
Yeah, and the thing is that there are 3 or 4 different Slap Your Mamas, various intensities, low salt, etc. And I use them all because I use them in a variety of different foods. The chicken, which I do in the air fryer, is just out of this world. But that even the difference between doing drumsticks, doing wings, and with the wings, I used to buy the Louisiana hot sauce from you. Matter of fact, I used to buy that stuff, wing sauce, in a gallon bottle. Fortunately, that never goes out of date. Nothing can live in it.
Yeah, and in America, they have changed a lot of the wording on that because there was so much food waste. So they made it, instead of Best Buy, they made it better for it eaten by, or they just changed the verbiage that's saying that, because it hit that date doesn't mean you throw it away. It just starts losing some of maybe the flavor or the intensity or the color, but it doesn't necessarily go bad.
I clean out my pantry usually once a year, and there's always a little game that I play, which is, what's the oldest expiry date that you can find? Last year, I had something from 2010, and I served it. I brought it out. I go, well, I got to use this, like Stubbs barbecue sauce or something. Mm-hmm. And but actually, no, it was the pepper sauce. It was a chili sauce, which never goes off. And I put it out on the table, and one of my friends looked at the use-by date. He goes, Phil, this stuff is like almost 10 years old. I go, yeah, aren't you glad I brought it out? It's vintage. This year, for the first time, and I'm a Southern boy, I bought grits. I could never stand grits. Grits were horrible to me. That's because they were just made like wallpaper paste, Yeah. But the grits that I make have pork, which I've put a sausage spice on, and the Holy Trinity and some garlic, a can of cream of mushroom soup, believe it or not, and half milk, half water to cook it. My God, my friends all went nuts over this, and I had to keep ordering grits from you because I didn't bring any back. I only started them, like this was a COVID thing. COVID cuisine, COVID Cajun cuisine,
Oh, Phil, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your insight, and you have entertained us very much so, and I'm sure our listeners as well.
Oh, I'm going to send you an email with all the things that I want. You can just stock a box as they come in.
Sure.
And then when you've reached the most of it, you just go, okay, total it up, send it to him. Here's the invoice. We've got his card.
All right. Thank you so much, Phil. And we will talk soon.
Y'all come back now, here.
That was great to hear from Phil. He is a font of knowledge. And if you want to see his recipes, you can do that on his website, which is philtripp.com. That's Phil with one L and Tripp with 2 P's. So philtripp.com. And we'll be back in a moment with our secret code.
Understand, I'm just a man with a pork fat baby back to lose. Yeah, understand, I'm still your man with a pork fat baby back balloon.
Okay, we're back, and here's the secret code, Cajun.
And if you want to come into the shop this week, we have expanded our hours. So we are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 5. Friday, we have a late night, 10 to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 to 5. And Sunday, 11 to 4. We're at 67 to 73 Cochrane's Road, Moorabbin.
Our email address, if you want to give us an email, send that to podcasts@usafoods.com.au.
That's right. We'd love to hear any questions, comments, anything you want, even recipes. Now, this week we've had a few listener feedback. We have got our number one fan, Leslie. Leslie has sent me a note saying she just loves you, Phil.
I know.
She said you are a treasure trove of good stories, and she can't wait to hear some more. And she also thought Sean was lovely as well. So if Leslie likes it, it has to be good.
Yeah.
And I also got a note from my mother, who is very disappointed about me telling my Kahlua story for trick-or-treating. But
Well, there you go. You disappoint your mother again.
at 50. I mean, really, that's okay. She didn't know about it till then, so I don't think I did that bad. And she was also offended that I told the story of how she stole my Nestle Crunches.
Yeah.
But, that's a parent's job. And we got an email from a customer named Donna Arani, I think it is pronounced. Forgive me if I've done that incorrectly. She's covered a few topics. Luckily, she has enjoyed the podcast, which is fantastic to hear. And the hometown edition, she was happy to hear about Baby Blue's barbecue in Venice because she appreciates that and loves it. And she also loves Gilbert's El Indo Mexican restaurant in Santa Monica. So it seems Donna and I share a love of actual Mexican food. And also touching on something that we are able to offer people in Australia, seeing recipes on the Food Network or Pinterest or things like that. She was looking for a certain salad dressing she needed for a recipe. And luckily, she found us and found it. So we were able to help her with that.
Terrific. Okay, now we're going to go to our next session, National Food Holidays, Nat Nosh.
Yum.
And today, Wednesday, is National Candy Day.
That is the best day of all.
Did we have Candy Day last week, too?
You can have candy bars. You can have hard wrapped candies. There's all sorts of candy to have.
Okay, what's your two favorite candies?
Snickers bar. And you know what? I like a chocolate covered cherry. I like with the runny stuff, not the fondant, but the runny stuff around it. Or booze. I have a theme, I think.
Yep. I would say mine is because I'm a lover of peanut butter. It has to be like Reese's. Any of the Reese's. I like peanut butter and chocolate. And probably the other one is Payday because I like the peanuts and the brittle, and that's pretty much like that. Or the one that missed the peanut on, which you can't bring in. Those are my two favorite ones.
It's got the salty sweet thing. I'm still picking through Halloween candy. So, the kids can't have it all. They do need to share.
And tomorrow is National Donut Day. I think sounds familiar too.
That is exactly right. How can you not be happy with a National Donut Day? Of course, Melbourne, we had Double Donut Day the other week, and that's how we got out of lockdown.
Yep. Thanks to donut. How could we live without them? And speaking of donuts, there's the other one that goes with donuts, and it goes with everything. It's Stout. National Stout Day.
Oh, that's good. See, it looks like we're keeping with the theme of the alcoholic holiday. Or is it stout like pudgy? You never know.
No, I think it's stout like an alcohol. Okay.
Ooh, and Friday is National Nachos Day.
Now, Australians have a problem saying nachos.
Nachos, they say sometimes.
Nachos, okay. And there's so many different varieties. Fish nachos, and you can make it with beef. You can make it with pork. I mean, you can make a vegetarian one. Yeah, it doesn't end.
Or if you come home late at night after a big night out, you can just put some cheese on some corn chips and stick it in the microwave.
And call it a nacho.
That's a desperation nacho, but it fits the bill sometimes.
Tastes like it all goes down the same way.
That's right.
Saturday, it's just only one thing on Saturday is bittersweet chocolate with almonds.
Yeah, that's pretty specific. I want to know who came up with, I don't dislike it, but was there some lobbying going on to get its own day? I don't know.
I think Brax had something to do with that. That's the Brax in Chicago. Brax family.
Fair enough. And Sunday, November 8th, National Cappuccino Day.
So cappuccino, like in Italy, they only drink it in the morning because after that, there's no milk or latte after noon.
Oh, well,
Espresso.
One day we need to do a show on difference in coffees because people go to America, I think they're going to get a cappuccino or a latte, and they get a brewed coffee.
They get disappointed.
They do. So maybe we can help them not get disappointed next time. Now, this is actually a beverage day. So I don't know, they're pushing it with the food holiday, but we also have, I think, wasn't this the cocktail of the 70s? The National Harvey Wallbanger Day?
You remember what's in it?
Orange juice, Galliano, and what else?
And I don't know if there was anything else in it, right? And vodka.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a fancy
now, the other way to do that, I used to like it, instead of using Galliano, was to use amaretto.
Ooh.
And I think that was called the Godfather.
I'll have to have
it. Really, really tasty.
And we have International Tempranillo Day. So that's a grape. So that's a red wine. I haven't had that one. So it sounds Italian.
I don't think you see that much of it. You probably, if you go to the liquor stores over here to Dan Murphy's, and you look under the Spanish wines, you'll probably find it there.
Oh, I think it's a blending grape, I think. So we might find it if we look closely on some labels here, we might see it show up. Might have to stop by the store on the way home.
Okay, and where are we going now? Now it's Monday, and Monday's National Scrapple Day. Now, for all those people who are not from the East Coast, or even if you're from the East Coast, a lot of people never heard of Scrapple. I never heard of it until I moved to New Jersey, and then you see it there in the supermarkets. But it's a mixture of pork scraps and trimmings that they mix with cornmeal, wheat flour, buckwheat, and spices. It's a traditional mush. I mean, calling anything mush, do you really want to eat it?
I think also I heard it described as they use all of the pig except for the yoink.
Yeah, except for the yoink. But I mean, but it's all the scraps. In other words, the stuff you probably would maybe not even give to the dog.
Well, and then don't you make a loaf out of it and fry it. And we'll eat anything fried. Just don't ask questions.
Yeah. And put eggs over it.
That's it. And we also have an interesting day Monday, Bold and Pungent Day. In other words, Stinky Cheese Day.
Stinky cheese. I mean, bold and pungent. I think when I think of bold and pungent, I had a friend that was Filipino, and he used to bring dishes into work, and a lot of Filipino dishes are pungent and bold.
They are. Lots of vinegar in them. Vinegar and garlic. Yeah. Now, my grandpa, he used to think it was so funny because he would feed me the stinkiest cheese ever, and I just loved it. And he just couldn't appreciate it enough. He thought I might grow up with a fine palate.
You did.
I did.
And the last day, Tuesday, is National Vanilla Cupcake Day.
Let's be specific. Vanilla only.
Vanilla only. So that means there will be a chocolate one coming up soon.
Ooh, yay. And maybe a red velvet following.
Yeah, I'm sure that will happen.
Nothing like a vanilla cupcake to get things going.
Now, next week's show is Thanksgiving preview.
Yes. So actually, if anyone now's the time to get your questions to us. If you have any questions, you can send them to podcast@usafoods.com.au. And we need to talk about stuffing versus dressing, the recipes we do, what we need to get ready for it, maybe some memories as well.
Yeah. And also, if you have any recipes that you'd like to share, give it to us on our podcast.com.au, and we'll be talking about that next week.
Yes, Thanksgiving is such a beautiful tradition, and the thing that a lot of us who have moved away have tried to keep as our special holiday, because it really is a nice one. No presents, just family, and maybe your drunk uncle that you're trying to avoid, but that's a different story.
But we'll get into all that next week. In the meantime, I'm going to say I'm out of here. And thank you, Barbara. Thanks to Phil Tripp. And thanks again to Brendan, our producer.
See you, Phil. Later, dude. And I'll talk to you next week.
I think you'll talk to me before that.
Yeah, probably. Bye.